Hello, everyone. I'm Andy, coming to you from the United Kingdom.
Coming to you from Canada, I'm Scott.
And welcome, everyone, to the Tea and Timbits podcast, global perspectives on business development to help you prosper. This week, we are going to be talking about sales team events and the larger getaways that some sales teams in organizations do around the world. But before we get into that topic, Scott, I believe you have a story for us about sales.
Well, yes. We were trying to do a little bit of analysis on sort of win-loss ratios and successes that, or lack thereof, that we've seen lately. Always a healthy thing to kind of reflect on your pipeline and the results that you have or haven't seen, and a very distinct pattern emerged, which I think is probably very obvious to many people, but it wasn't to me when we started. So I thought, well, why not share it? It was quite obvious to us that there was a big difference between success of the opportunities that came from an inbound opportunity versus the success of opportunities that started off as an outbound prospect.
Okay, interesting.
And I know I say it to you and you're like, you okay over there? Because it's pretty, like, in retrospect, it's like, duh. But we did not differentiate. We said, okay, all right, if somebody's up for a call, and if we reached out to them to say, I think, you might benefit from knowing a little bit more about who we are and what we do over here, versus if somebody called us to say, oh, I've heard that I should call you and talk to you about this need, that, obviously those they require two different approaches, at least until the point that you get to actually talk about a real opportunity, a real, actual, legitimate project need. And so like, it was a light bulb moment for us, which I'm excited to have reached, which I now realize means we've got quite a bit of work ahead of us in terms of shoring that up and formalizing that and figuring that out for ourselves. We'd obviously had success with outbound prospecting and opportunity management in the past, but this particular realization came as a result of the fact that we've grown a bit, and the pipeline's bigger than it has before, and we actually have more data available to us to analyze and make these realizations. And perhaps in the past, one or two things that didn't work out as well as something else would have otherwise seemed insignificant, but is no longer the case. So if you are in that situation and you don't have a different process for your inbound versus your outbound prospect nurturing and opportunity management, don't wait until you have the realization that I just did. Get on it right now.
I really appreciate you sharing that story, Scott, because I think it is often the case in many companies that the process is the same, and it is often difficult to differentiate that within the sales team, and it's seen as an opportunity. But perhaps we can have a discussion on that on another podcast.
Indeed.
But
hold on, I'm going to hijack the MC role here.
Go ahead.
I know that we sort of said that this is your turn to facilitate the introduction or the conversation. But I think that you're going to have more to say about this topic than I do. So let's switch roles here. We're going to talk about large scale sales events. And I just don't think that is the kind of thing that I have the same insight on and experience that you do. So before we even get into that, what do you want people to take away from this conversation?
Well, rather than diving too much into the detail of the topic, essentially, most of these events are terrible, and the people who participate in them think they're terrible. The people who have to arrange them find them very frustrating, and then everybody is essentially pretending that that it's a valuable use of time, and ultimately, afterwards, all agree that it wasn't. But My desired outcome from this discussion is to talk about the good experiences that I've had so that hopefully people can learn from that and embrace some of that in their own sales team meetings, either as a participant, how to get the most out of the terrible meetings that you're in, or as an arranger and leader in a business, how to not mess up your sales team meeting and make it very dull for your people who don't really want to be there.
So generally you want to make sure these events are better events, or you want to make sure that these events don't happen?
Oh no, they must happen. I think
Ooh,
they're
all
incredibly
right, all
important
right, all right.
events.
So make them better. All right. So
Make them
okay, so tee it up for us. Okay, let me tee it up. So I have friends and other colleagues and contacts who are working as in a sales or a revenue generation function, and yes, they go to these sales kickoff or national sales meetings or even global get-togethers, and it is usually to, all be in the same place and hear the same message and get aligned behind the same goals and objectives for the coming year. And everybody tends to enjoy the time together with their colleagues and the people and whatnot, but less so the content. So is that your experience as well?
It is a good summary of the type of scenario that many people experience. Yes, typically, most leaders want to want to get everyone together because they know the value of everyone being together. They know the value of the motivation, the energy that comes out of sharing knowledge, sharing experiences, and that's why they want everyone together in the room, because everyone's working within the same company but in a different way. They've got different experiences. Their challenges will be different. The way they overcame those challenges will be different. And so sharing some of that is very good. However, none of that happens in almost all of these events in a formalized way. So the leaders sort of expect that to happen and instead do death by PowerPoint for 2 or 3 days and not allow anyone the chance to really motivate or team build.
So
And
what would fix this?
well, this is the key. I think there needs to be a focus on what do they want the actual sales teams to take away from the event, and what do the salespeople themselves actually want from the event. Most people who are going to these events want to network, want to socialize, want to hear about the challenges, want to meet up with the friends who they work with but only know remotely, want to build those relationships. What should be done at these events is a mixture of energizing, motivating, training, empowering the sales team to be successful, to continue their success, to grow their success, to take some of those success stories, to take the what good looks like, to really work on the offer, to work on the sales story, to work on things that are productive that people can take away from that and go, this was a really good sales meeting. If I hadn't been on that sales meeting, I wouldn't now be able to go and do this, this, and this.
Mhm.
So I want people to leave those sales meetings with one clear goal from every day that they're there. I want them to have an experience where there's a team building element to it. Yes, sometimes those can be quite embarrassing, but it doesn't have to be these silly games. It can be things like, cooking a meal together, that you all get together and cook your lunch, that you're in a good location and you do some fun things. But the social element of these events is very, very important too. And just doing PowerPoint updates about different departments, doing PowerPoint discussions about numbers, that happens normally. There's no need for that to happen at these getaways, these kickoffs. These should be exactly that, a kickoff event. They should kick off the energy from the sales team to get them motivated, to get them inspired, to get them excited about going back to work and getting it out and using some of those skills, techniques, ideas, thoughts, shared knowledge that they didn't have before they went to the event.
So playing devil's advocate though, don't you think that they want that too? Don't you think they already think that they are doing what you just described? Why doesn't it happen?
No, I think most leaders who are organizing these things are under a lot of pressure from finance department, from CEOs and so on within the business, who may not understand the benefits of going away and socializing for 2 or 3 days with salespeople. So they see it as a jolly. They see it as a bit of a fun thing, and therefore, the sales leaders within the company feel that they have to justify it, and therefore they make it a very businessy event, and it becomes very dull, and it undermines the actual purpose of these events, and that's what sort of happens, I believe.
So I've been to not to a big huge sales meeting, but to other partner meetings and conferences and summits and whatnot. And I think you're right. I think there's this overwhelming pressure to try and fit as much value as absolutely possible into the time available. So we're going to start our programming with a 7:30 a.m. breakfast that actually includes a speaker, that ends at 10:30 p.m. and a hosted dinner by so and so, and not a minute of a flex in there. And I think that's a mistake. I think that
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that the real value there is some of that time in between, some of that one-on-one conversation. I am going to a partner event in about a month, and there's a few of us that we know are going to be there together. And due to the fact that we know the programming that we're sort of obligated and interested in participating in is going to be so busy, we've all agreed, let's front load this and arrive earlier so that we can have a little bit of the time that we know that we enjoy together to just talk shop, talk about running an agency, connect on a few things, so that we can maximize the benefit of going and seeing each other in person.
Yeah.
So
well, this is the problem, is that is what needs to happen, because you know that the actual event itself isn't going to provide that for you, and yet
right,
that is the key thing that you want out of it.
So okay, so let's then accept the fact that it is what it is, and you are a sales rep, and you are going to one of these things, and you are just dreading death by PowerPoint, but it's out of your control. What do you do to maximize the value and the benefit of going and having this imposed on you?
Well, there is, of course, the opportunity to make sure that you do talk to your leaders and provide the feedback, and that it's not just from you individually, that you talk to your other colleagues, and you sort of collectively say, look, this is what we want to get out of this. How can we try and adjust this and the schedule accordingly? Is there any opportunity for training? Is there any opportunity for development? And I genuinely believe that if sales leaders are presented with that opportunity, and they know that their teams actually want to get this benefit out of it, then it allows them to feel confident that they can then report up the line that actually, yes, we've got, first day is going to be training on this, the second day is going to be skill development, the second day is going to be practice, it's going to be role plays. They will then see that, okay, they are developing that, because ultimately no one gains anything from a day of or two of PowerPoint slides, but that's what happens, because nobody thinks beyond that. They think that that's what's necessary, because we've got to do the company update, we've got to get all of the different departments around, and they can do their update, and everyone's there, and it's really good. But it's not good. That's not where anyone gains anything. It's about it's about learning new skills, it's about developing the skills that you currently have, it's about putting these things into practice, it's about developing, and that's what I think people want. Who are genuinely good and passionate salespeople. They want to develop, they want to grow, they want to be successful, and they want to take these opportunities to do that. If you're in a circumstance where the agenda cannot change, it is going to be the death by PowerPoint, then make sure that you arrange some times with your key counterparts. You find out who they are, you try and arrange some time in the downtimes, as limited as they unfortunately often are, to touch base, to collaborate, to knowledge share, and make sure that that the development takes place even on your own terms.
And so I'm going to add one other suggestion to that scenario, which is think about how you can use it as personal time. Think about how you can also get some benefit out of your own using the time that you have essentially by yourself within a group to put a bit of a scaffold together or some detail on your personal business plan. you've got time away from the usual hustle bustle, and how can you maximize even the time on the airplane and the time in between and whatnot to, give yourself or get some leverage out of that that individual time.
I think that's a very valid point. It is important to allow yourself the opportunity to switch off, and to reflect a little bit on how things are going and how things should be achieved.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Andy. Very good. Well, let us know if anybody out there has been able to influence the structure and delivery of any of their large scale sales events. I think if I'm going to recap what I heard you say, it was, first of all, if you're a leader, to be a lot more intentional about what you're trying to get out of it, to not overpack the schedule and appreciate the value of less programming is better than more programming. And if you're an individual contributor, there's no reason you shouldn't feel empowered to try and have an influence on the structure of, the event or the one that they're going to organize next year. So I think those are some good reflections. Thank you, Andy.
Spot on. Thanks very much, Scott. Been a pleasure. And if anyone wants to get in touch and find out more about us, then please go to teaandtimbits.com, where you can find many ways to get in touch and to listen to the podcast.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Scott.